What makes you happy? For me, it's really simple. It's music. But it's not just any music, it's country music. And here in a state like Idaho, especially in this little town, it feels like it's so hard to escape this music in the first place. It's a lay low, farming kind of place. And you go to the grocery store, you hear it. I go to work and I can hear it down the hallway at the other neighbors down the street who are playing it, and I can hear it in my office. I'm the one playing it, so it's definitely hard to escape it. And today I just want to talk about how the history of country music has really evolved over the years, how it's changed over time and gotten us to where we are today. So I want to start with where it all began, and it started in music that was found in the 1910s by the Southern Appalachian fiddle players. And if you've heard of Ed Robertson, he produced the first commercial country record in 1922. And according to liveabout.com, they said that the genre really came into play in the 1920s. So not the 1910s, but the 1920s. And 2 years later, you had Vernon Delhart, and he came into the scene, and he had the first national country hit with his Wreck of the Old 97 song. So there's also, though, those historians who say that none of that really matters, none of that really counts, that really country music was born in the late 1920s when Jimmy Rogers and the Carter family signed with Victor Records. So whether it was the 1910s or the 1920s, the early part or the later part, it was in that time frame really where country music really emerged. And regardless of, when it really started, artists started emerging and lyrics were produced, and some of those famous artists really stuck out to me. Hank Williams was one of them. He's famous for his I'm So Lonely, I Could Cry song. Lefty Frizzle, If You've Got the Money, I've Got the Time. And Bill Monroe and the Bluegrass Boys, they sang the Kennedy Waltz song. So those are some ones that really have stood out to me that, started back then. Have you ever listened to a country song from way back? It's different than what really we're used to today. Country became a more synthetic and advantageous Western music, according to Britannica.com. They've got, they had altered lyrics and certain instruments, and lots of the instruments that they had back then, we know today. We have, the fiddles, we've got the steel and amplified guitars, we've got the harmonica, the mandolin, we've got the high harmony singers, we've got the single voices. One of them that I wasn't familiar with was the Appalachian dulcimer, and that's one that really started back then. So now that we know a little bit more about the genre and the instruments that got this genre started, I want to talk a little bit more about how it really evolved over the years. And the o2.co.uk said that about every 10 years or so, they felt like country music saw a new movement of sorts, which is really crazy if you think about it. And so starting in, we talked about Jimmy Rogers and the Carter family, but starting in the 1930s and going, up to the 50s. So if we take that 20-year span right there, there was a lot of growing. And according to the o2.co.uk site, they said that there were really three things during that time frame that really took place that had country music evolve. That was radio became the go-to choice for entertainment in the home, and that's a really big deal. That made it so much easier to listen to music right where you were living. The other thing was other artists. You had like a Bob Mills, who introduced electric guitars and drums for live concerts, in live bands. And that's a huge thing, because you go to a concert and you have that kind of, music that you're listening to. It totally changes how you perceive a genre. So that was another big influence. The third one was that Hank Williams, he started sprinkling his influences in the honky-tonk world. And that was big. The world was forever changed for that. Then you look, another 10-year span. You got the 1950s to the 1960s. And this is where country music started blending three types of things. They had the honky-tonk that they were starting to blend. They had country boogie, and they had western swing that they were all mixing into one. Then you've got Johnny Cash, which you've heard of Johnny Cash, I'm sure, and he introduced rockabilly. And this was more of a blend of like the country and western and the rhythm and blues type of sounds. And then you also have another big thing that took place during this time, which was the Nashville Sound. And this turned country into a multi-million-dollar industry, which is absolutely changing for the genre. And according to GrizzlyRose.com, this is a subgenre of American country music, and it's more of a smooth tempo sound. But that really had an influence on country. And then, of course, you've got Patsy Cline, who emerged during this time frame, who's a legend, known for her songs Crazy and Walking After Midnight. So those are some big things that happened. Then you fast forward to the 1970s, and you look at that 10-year time frame, and country all of a sudden was experiencing something that it never had before. And it is called outlaw country. And this is something that Willie Nelson introduced. He led the way for this, really. And it was kind of more of like an angrier version, but still a country sound. And so he really led the way and pushed for this to keep going forward. And then you look at, you've got John Denver, you've got Dolly Parton. You look at those two, and those names, they're legendary. And so that was a really big thing that took place in that time frame there. Now that we've looked at the past, I kind of just want to go forward and look at where it's at right now. And Billboard.com, they released an article that was called The 30 Greatest Artists of the Modern Era Critics' Picks. And 3 of those are people that really made a big push to get country music into this 21st century. And they were ranked on this list, and they're still alive today. We've got Garth Brooks, he was ranked number 10, Kenny Chesney, number 13, and Shania Twain at number 15. So those were 3 artists still who are paving the way still for country music, but they really made that push, especially in the 90s, to get it here. What really has made country music so popular today is that the artists have infused a youthful vibe. And it's something that also has like a rock and roll mentality, and it's got some pop in there. And they also have diverse performers who take the stage, who add something new, who have their own touch. I mean, you look at Taylor Swift, for example, who now she's gone on the pop scene, but she started as a country artist. And every concert that she had, she was going on and putting on a play. It wasn't just a performance. She was putting on an entire show. And that changed country music. It changed the way that fans look at artists performing. And that was a really, really also a key moment in country music. So these artists, they have all kept country music going and getting it to where it is today. And, regardless of what year it was really born in, it's become more of a modern day sound today. And artists have put their own touch on how they perform and their songs, their lyrics. And it's still popular today, just like it was back then. And I think that that's what's the amazing thing, is that it hasn't ever seemed to just dip. It just keeps going up. And anytime that you hear a country song, always remember, it didn't get where it is today just from magic. It didn't. Previous artists over the years have had to help get it to where it is today. And as country grows, it will continue to change. But the roots will always, always stay the same.